The woman standing next to Peter had long silver hair that went down to her waist. On her head, she was wearing a beret, and behind her was her trusty rapier sword that was jagged and looked to be made from a long breastbone. She had a feeling that resonated off her body. She looked like the older sister type, who you were able to trust to get you out of trouble when you needed it. As soon as she entered the room, everyone froze except for one student. A second year who was too heated in the moment. He had finally seen Erin drop her guard. He continued to charge forward and was ready to attack, but before even a second could pass, the female teacher who had entered the room was right by the student's side, and a few moments later he had collapsed on the floor with the back of his foot all bloody. When did she get over there? Hey, look at his ankles. Do you think she did that? As Momo looked at who had entered the room, he immediately put his soul weapon away. Momo knew a lot of the teachers and high-positioned people in the academy. After all, he had already been here a year, and the person who had entered the room was not to be messed with. When she said whoever didn't listen to her would be punished, she meant it. The female's name was Fay Dallum. She was a sergeant at the academy and was mostly in charge of squad training. Anyone else but her, Momo said. Not only that, but her ability was super speed, the worst matchup for Momo. No matter how far ahead he could see in the future, her speed was simply too fast to react. Not that he had planned to go against her anyway. He had already made that mistake last year when Fay was still only a private at the academy. Those of you who are injured go to the doctor's office to be treated immediately, while the rest of you head to the dorms and stay inside until you are called out again. Do you understand? Fay said. Most of the first-year students were silenced. They had no clue who she was or what was happening right now. Then, from the lack of people answering her with a reply, Fay drew her rapier once more, and after seeing this, the students immediately answered, "Yes, miss." Vorden had gone to the hospital, carrying his arm in his hand. The second-year students went to their own separate part of the building that was located somewhere else to get treated, while out of the first-year students, no one was really hurt apart from Vorden and Quinn. This time Quinn had no choice but to head to the doctor's office. His clothes were all bloody, and he had lost a lot of blood, but once he had been out of combat for more than 10 minutes, his body started to heal itself. After successfully attaching Vorden's arm back to his body, Hayley, the school doctor, had gone up to check on Quinn. When she asked him to take off his shirt so that she could directly heal his wounds, she noticed that the markings had almost already healed. "What is this? For this much blood, the wound should be a lot bigger." Quinn started to laugh nervously. "Yeah, my friend has a healing ability and managed to heal me a bit before I got here." "Oh, another healer," Hayley said, surprised. "Well, if you get the chance, send them down here. Their ability is quite good, and it looks like they have done a splendid job. I could do it with help, and I would love to have a student of my own." "Sure," Quinn replied. Hayley then proceeded to complete healing the rest of Quinn's wounds on his body. After she was done, there was not a mark on him. During Quinn's own healing process, the body had used up quite a bit of energy, and once again the message had appeared stating he was hungry. "Blood bank, 90 of 100. After consuming some blood from his blood bank, he no longer felt hungry and didn't have to worry about going on a frenzy for at least another 2 days. Once Quinn and Vorden had arrived back in their rooms, they were told not to leave until they were notified. Once in a while, a private would call out a student's name, and they would be taken somewhere for questioning. Inside their own rooms was Vorden, Peter, and Quinn. "Thanks for calling the sergeant when you did, otherwise me and Quinn would have been goners by now." "No problem," Peter replied, still feeling bad about the whole thing. Although he had done the right thing by getting Fay, he still felt bad for having tricked Vorden into going into the hall in the first place. "What did you think will happen in the second year?" Quinn asked. I'm not too sure," Vorden replied. "If this was a one-on-one incident, then I'm pretty sure they would have ignored it, but this time there were several students involved. Most likely they will look for one person to pin the blame on." Meanwhile, inside one of the integration rooms, a large muscular man with forearms the size of thighs was sitting opposite the second-year student Momo, and on his shoulder the man had the rank of general. His name was Duke King, and he was head of the second-year students. "Of all the people it had to be Fay to stop us," Momo complained. "I did as you asked, and now I might pay for it." "Will you relax? Nothing will come of this, I promise you that," Duke replied. "You're only students, and these types of things happen, and I'll vouch for you." "Really? So this won't all fall back on me, then?" Momo asked. Then Duke stood up and went up behind Momo and whispered in his ear. "Of course, as long as no one finds out about our little secret," Duke said with a smile. All the students involved in the incident had been interviewed, and that, of course, included Quinn and Vorden. However, they weren't asked many questions like the two of them thought they would be. They were simply asked to recall the events that happened. Judging by the fact that the person interrogating them didn't seem surprised by what they had said, it seemed like they had already gathered everything they needed from the other students, and were just doing this as a formality. The next day had arrived, and it was a weekend for the students. Just like any other school, students did not have to attend classes and were free to do as they wished around the city. Although the curfew still existed, they had to be back in their dorm rooms before 10 in the evening, and they were not allowed to leave the city. However, for the leaders at the school, their day was not as relaxing as the students', for a meeting had been called. Inside the academy, on the top floor, the leaders of the academy had gathered in a fairly large meeting hall. A large table was centered in the middle of the room. The table was split into two different sections. At the head of the table, there were 4 seats in total. One of the seats was a little bigger than the others. In this was where the head general of the academy would sit. Currently, this seat remained empty for the meeting. In the other seats, usually by the head general's side, were the 3 generals of the school. There was the head of the second-year students, Duke, with his large arms and muscular build. Then the head of the first-year students, Nathan, who looked the complete opposite of Duke. He was small in size and wore glasses. He was usually casually dressed for important occasions, which annoyed Duke. The two of them did not get along. Lastly, there was the third general, who was head of staff, and the rest of the privates and teachers in the academy. Currently, his seat was also empty. The 2 generals sat in their seats waiting for the others to arrive, and as usual there was silence between the 2 of them. Then finally the doors opened, and 8 people had arrived, all wearing the military uniform, and each one of them had the rank of sergeant displayed. Out of these 8 sergeants, it included Leo, the beast weapons teacher, Fay, the head of squads, and Hayley, the school doctor. The 8 sergeants sat in their seats opposite to the generals, and finally it was time for the meeting to start. Fay was the first to stand and speak. "We are here today to conduct the meeting on what to do with the second-year students who were involved in the case involving primarily the first-year student known as Vorden Blade, and the students who are part of Dell's class and Leo's beast weapons class."
Subscribe to the Pocket FM Blockbuster YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notifications. Check out our channel for more exciting shows.